but he is still actively trying to familiarize himself with the slang the kids use. So you'll get some mishaps from that, and his attempts at being new and current, but they usually fall short more than they land.
I am very excited for this game, and I am very excited to step into the considerable shoes of you as Thor, the God of Thunder. Now, you've played Thor in the past, and we've seen many different Thors over the years, from a Shakespearean beef castle to a Fortnite-addled sad boy. But I'm curious, what version of Thor is this?
Oh, man. That was the best intro I've ever heard. And I think they're more boots than shoes, right? I don't know if he owns any sneakers, but maybe we should add that as one of the customizable options in the game. Just give him some sneaks, right?
Yeah,
some
New Balance, get him comfy.
Adidas, something, yeah. This version of Thor is, it's sort of a nice balance between the more modern, comfy version that maybe we've seen in something like a Thor Ragnarok, or one of the more classically stilted versions from like the 70s and 80s, where all the dialogue is thee and thou and zounds and huzzah and all of that. There's still a fair amount of that, but it is more Thor finding his place in the team. They've certainly had some success and some victories. He's got a little bit of tension. There's a little bit of a dynamic between him and Tony Stark. Who really knows what's best for the team? Who really knows what's best for this realm, and how the Avengers should play a role in its policing, as it were. But he is still actively trying to familiarize himself with the slang the kids use. So you'll get some mishaps from that, and his attempts at being new and current, but they usually fall short more than they land.
So I imagine he's going to have some slang lessons from Kamala Khan.
Oh yeah, I mean I think he takes on the art of selfies. There might even be a social media account creation or two, along with how to make an appropriate handle. You just never know.
Look, Thor, he needs to stay connected. He's got to spread the good word about Asgard. Strikes me as a bit.
He needs that influencer status, right?
Yes.
The tree of life is one thing, but that blue check mark that's everything.
Oh, of course. Verily, is branded content.
Verily.
Obviously, we know from some of the trailers and people who have played the beta, they got a chance to try it out. This is taking place in the wake of a major event known as A-Day. So I think you may have alluded to some of that with how he's interacting with Tony Stark, but where do we find Thor?
A-Day's happened. It seems like a big incident has occurred. It seems like it's claimed the lives of many, including, our own Captain America. And Thor he's taking it pretty hard, right? He's taking it pretty rough. I think for him, feeling as a demigod would, that he is invulnerable, that he has a responsibility to this realm, that he should have helped the team avoid this from happening, that he's let everyone down, right? He's let his team down. He's let the mortals down. He's let the expectation of his father and Asgard down. So, he lays his hammer down, as it were, and really walks away. And I think what's going to be interesting is watching Thor take his time amongst the people that he has been tasked with protecting, and then also figuring out what it means to lose gracefully, right? To take it in stride, to take that as a lesson and learn from it and come back stronger, which is, I think, something we can all relate to. And then also just figuring out his place in the world and the team. He doesn't really know best. Neither does Tony Stark, and the answer probably lies somewhere in the middle. So that conversation will need to happen. And then I think it's also going to be particularly touching to watch the interaction between Thor and Kamala Khan. She's a new burst of energy and enthusiasm, seeing the world and the Avengers themselves through her eyes. Will do a lot for the big guy. So I think that's going to be pretty special.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that interaction in particular, because I think Thor is kind of always a delight to see how he reacts to these kind of new and unfamiliar circumstances, especially coming from that godlike background of his. So I'm very excited to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to play the game yet? And if so, who has been your favorite character to play?
Oh, a loaded question, Dan Casey. You're going to make me be a self-centered bastard, aren't you? Well, I did actually get to play the introduction last October at New York Comic Con. I didn't get a chance to play the beta just because the missus and I, Thor and Black Widow, we got a kid, non-canon. So balancing that time could be a little interesting. But when we played that intro that was on the Golden Gate Bridge, you go between Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, all those things. I gotta say, Thor was pretty fun, if for no other reason than the lightning's already coming out of his eyes. He has multiple levels that he can attack from. Iron Man can too, but that's just a suit of armor. Nobody cares about that. And being able to throw the hammer and then have it pause, have enemies move in front of it, and then have it be a double action attack where you can, sort of summon it back to your hand was really great. If I had to pick another, I guess it would probably be Kamala Khan, with Tony as a close second to that. Iron Man is pretty dope. Hulk, you've already got all the muscle you need right here in the Mighty Thor, so I just feel like that's redundant.
Wow, Bruce Banner is crying somewhere off in the distance.
Yeah, crying over his quantum physics worksheet.
Yes, over his many PhDs and his scientific achievements. You get to be in a very unique position where you are playing this character. So first, what was your earliest memory of Thor?
Wow. Yeah. For me, I was the same way. I sort of started in DC Comics when I was younger. And then I think right around 4th or 5th grade, I had a friend who had a basement full of boxes of Marvel Comics, found Punisher, Wolverine, got into Alpha Flight, got into X-Men, Avengers, all those sorts of things. It's funny, Thor was really one of the least relatable characters to me, because back in the day, the type font was, italicized and had that classical thing. And you just couldn't really understand the way he was talking. You're like, okay, he's super strong and he's got some cool abilities, but he's just a weirdo, right? He's kind of like Beta Ray Bill, like he's just kind of out there. Or that's how I kind of put them together in my mind. Don't ask me why. Oh, because they both have, anyway. And it's been amazing, because comic books meant so much to me as a kid. They taught me so much about life in ways that I would only learn about really as I grew up more. But, they just have an incredible ability to teach you about moments that you might not really experience until later in life. And for me, Thor, as I've been able to play him more, is far more vulnerable and porous and interesting than I initially thought. I think you only get that with spending time with a character, but his obsession with being worthy, with living up to an idea or an image, whether it's from his father Odin, or his responsibility to this realm, or to be a mighty warrior in terms of what Asgard expects, has meant a lot to me. I mean, I've played him since 2011, and watching him grapple with his failures, how he addresses them, how he learns from them, and how he commits himself to being better as he moves forward has meant a lot. I actually have ink on my arm. This Elder Futhark, these runes roughly translate to a word, verder, which means to be worthy or to be deserving of. And it's just a reminder that every day it's about what you do that day to be worthy of something. So watching him take a fault and stride from the game and learn from it and commit to being better and bigger, and knowing that the thing that I read as a kid that may have just seemed sort of unrelatable, and knowing that as an adult you get to have, I guess, sort of a hand in shaping how other people digest that sort of character and that storyline. That material is more rewarding than I think most people can understand. At least it certainly is for me, and I don't take it lightly. It's pretty special.
Well, that's awesome. That's a really, I love hearing that kind of like personal through line as well. And the ink is pretty sick too.
Hey, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really cool though, like getting to play this character beyond just kind of like a one-off occasion since 2011. And I have to imagine this was a little bit different, because not only are you providing his thunderous baritone, but you're also now getting to step into his boots, as we mentioned, and doing the mocap as well. So what was that experience like when you finally got to see what it all looked like put together, knowing that you got to really embody the God of Thunder this time around?
Oh man, mocap, especially for Thor, is so amazing. I asked initially if they could do some work on my now dad bod, because I was worried that Thor's gut was going to be a canon thing, and they're like, "Don't worry, we got you covered." But we've been lucky enough to work on a fair number of mocap projects, and I was worried that coming in, his iconic Mjolnir might just be, as we were using it, like a thin piece of PVC pipe that had like 2 tennis balls with duct tape on the end of them. And I was thrilled when I got into the volume and they had a movie replica of Mjolnir, and I was going to throw that thing around. I think I just spun it nonstop until Laura, yelled at me to stop being such a child. But it was great. It was amazing. Nolan and I, as Tony Stark and Thor, have to take off and fly in the volume. But we don't have rigging to lift us off the ground, which means that I have to spin my hammer and then throw it up in the air and then stand there on my tiptoes, like rigid, and try not to laugh. While Nolan's doing the same thing with his repulsors down by his hips, striking a Vogue pose. So there were challenges, but I mean, more than anything, it is such a privilege and an honor to be able to pretend like you have 6 circular breastplate pieces of armor and a red cape and stride across the volume to talk to Iron Man in a Mark 6 piece of armor. It was just, it was so cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, something that I always loved is Marvel Comics and comic books in general, for as epic as the adventures can be, they can be kind of silly when you think about some of the terminology and the things that you're flinging back and forth. Is there a particular line of dialogue in this or another project you've worked on that made you perhaps feel the same way? Where you're like, what am I saying right now? I've got to get through this.
I think there was one line of dialogue which we quickly tweaked, which was maybe just a few too many choices of the old classical stilted Thor. It might have started with like, verily, zounds, thou hast upset Thor, and we must make amends. Huzzah! And I was like, all right, guys, we got to pick like one or two of those, and then maybe we leave the rest for, I don't know, the rest of the game. But you can hear it when you say it. And it's so true. It's one thing to type it on a piece of paper, but as soon as it starts coming out of somebody's mouth, you're like, ooh, sorry. That just sounded so much different up here.
As a actor, do you ever try to put in a particular ad lib or line of dialogue or specific read into a project that will make you laugh later when you hear it?
All the time, right? All the time, especially when it comes to perhaps pet names or nicknames for other characters. We'll get a take as written always, but Tony always gets a name. Bruce certainly got a name or two. Black Widow got some. So did Cap. And those are things that you don't know if they're going to end up in the game or not. But if they do, you're like, hey, I made it in. And those are always great. The other thing is, just as a comic book fan, when we first started the game, we kind of had a conversation with Crystal Dynamics, and we're like, hey, we're actually making an Avengers game where there are multiple characters in the game. Let's not this up. And they were like, yeah, no, trust me, we got you. It's in good hands. And I can say, especially with the release of the Sony exclusive Spider-Man reveal, oh boy, I hope that's just the tip of the iceberg. Super exciting, and knowing that they are exploring how big that world can be in an interactive space is everything my little nerdy comic book heart desires.
I can't wait to get my hands on the game. It sounds super fun. I have a couple quick fan questions for you that I collected. This is from Troy in Los Angeles. So Troy asks, what did it feel like to, at the end of every take, look like an absolute idiot to twirl your hammer, a spongy thing on a stick, then freeze frame? Troy
from Los Angeles, it's not always a glamorous life, that of a voiceover actor. I would ask a return fan question to Troy in Los Angeles. What is it like knowing that as you walk around in a mocap volume, all of your physicality, available for the world to see in a skin tight mocap suit, knowing that you'll just never quite match up to the God of Thunder?
I will pass that along to Troy if and when I talk to him. We have another question for you. Laura from Los Angeles also wants to know, what's
a lot of questions from LA.
Laura Bailey. It's a very questionable city.
Wow. Yeah. Laura from Los Angeles. I consider myself lucky, privileged. Some might even say #blessed to be married to Laura Bailey. One can only hope that her supreme acting skills and chops will wear off like radiation poisoning over the years by just being in close proximity to her. And I consider myself lucky to be able to cook dinners and give foot rubs whenever they are requested.
I think those brownie points have been delivered to your account directly, so you should be good.
Okay.
And last but not least, we have one more question. Sandra from Los Angeles wants to know, Travis, you love holding the hammer all day long. Why is that?
Sandra from Los Angeles, when someone gives you a mythical weapon of Norse creation from the heart of a dying star, you tend to not want to let it go. You lay that thing down, just anyone might pick it up. Although canonically, that does seem to be an issue. It's almost like they thought of that in advance. But for me, I'm going to hold on to it as long as they will let me, even if that includes, I don't know, driving home with it on the last day of filming.
I can't wait to experience the God of Thunder Thor for myself when the beta comes out, when the full game comes out. So thanks again. I really appreciate it, dude.
Dude, my pleasure. Good to see you, Dan.
You too.
For more unique insights into the world of pop culture, make sure that you stay tuned to Nerdist Now.